let's go to the Pelicans. I can't use my Herb Jones one that I teased a few podcasts ago because I actually used it on the last podcast. And like I said, I didn't want to double dip. So if you want to know the bonkers Herb Jones stat that I came up with, go to the last Mailbag podcast.
The one you recorded at 4 a.m. because you couldn't sleep?
Yeah, it was actually almost 6 in the morning. I started researching at like 4 a.m. and I was like, okay, I'll record this when I get up and just release it and say what the hell. And I still couldn't, like, I was done. I was like, let me just record this. So yeah,
when you published that one, I was like, why didn't you ask me to join this one? And then I'm glad that you didn't message me at what would have been like 2 a.m. my time.
It probably would have been good if you were on it just because my voice sounded like gravel on gravel.
I've been there
because I was so sick. I know you've been there, but like not like me talking for 57 minutes straight or whatever it was probably wasn't the best experience for everybody. Thanks for all those questions though. I was in such a COVID ridden state. Nothing warms my heart more than when I get DMs from people with mailbag questions because they're not responding to the solicitation. They're just asking. And I have like, I think 4 or 5 built up over the past week. We will get to them next time. I promise. And hopefully it won't be a solo mailbag that time. However, the Pelicans, my number is 1. They rank.
Well, it can't be the number of games that Zion's played because that's still 0.
Yes. So they are first in the league in half-court offensive rebounding percentage. And I wanted to dig a little deeper into that number. So ever since they started the season 3-16, as we're recording this, they're actually over 500 at 11-9. They are still, not surprisingly, first in half-court offensive rebounding percentage during that stretch. They are also first in the percentage of plays for which that accounts for their entire offense. They are so reliant on cleaning up their own misses. They are also, during that time, as my light goes out here, and I'll plug that back in a second, they are also first in the plays, second chance plays that they're generating per miss on offense. They are 5th in the total points per 100 misses that they are generating. However, they're not super efficient in those situations still. They have been above the break 3-point shooting when it's a second chance opportunity. They're shooting almost 40%. That's great. It's like 5th in the league. They're like bottom 10 in nearly every other thing. Their effective field goal percentage on second chance opportunities is not that high. Zion probably helps them a ton there with his finishing, and they'll have a higher percentage of their putbacks going in. But I found it interesting that it's not surprising that a team that has Jonas Valanciunas is good at offensive rebounding, but they've been pretty reliant on it even during this stretch of success. They are also second in the league, if you want a random stat here, in the percentage of offensive rebounds they grab after missing a long mid-range jumper. And so I guess while having Brandon Ingram on your team and even a Devonte Graham a little bit, like that helps you out. So
that's a deep cut right there. My immediate follow-up question, and I don't know if you have easy access to that, is what does their transition defense look like? Because in modern NBA basketball, we've seen that there's so much of a trade-off between crashing the offensive glass and getting back to play transition defense. And most coaches have moved away from the former in favor of the latter, unless you have just a really ridiculously talented offensive rebounder. So is that coming at the expense of transition defense, or is this a strength that isn't impacting the team elsewhere?
When you're looking at their transition defense, and this is during the stretch that they've been above 500, they actually have the best transition defense in the league.
So that's working nicely.
3rd when you break it down to points per play.
That's amazing. Like that is not supposed to happen. That could not be more anomalous.
They are 21st in defense overall though during this stretch. So
that part's not great, but it's New Orleans. Like we couldn't have expected too many positives here.
They've been quietly like just Josh Hart. Brandon Ingram's passing. Devonte Graham has hit some big shots. Jonas Valanciunas is, well, when he was in the lineup, I don't even know if he's returned yet. The league is all over the place. It's so hard. No one should feel bad for me or you. It's just so hard to cover the league at a league-wide scale right now. It's so difficult.
I think, I can't remember if it was you and friend of the podcast, Jacob Bourne, or just Jacob, that I was kind of griping about this too. But usually at this point in the season, with all the different NBA math graphics that I produce on a daily and weekly basis, like I have most of the faces cut out to make those. But this season, it's like every morning, it's like, oh, got to find headshots for 6 more players who made their season debuts this time around. Like I have them prepped for Klay Thompson and guys we expect to make their debuts. But when we're just signing players off the streets, it's like seriously, like another morning where I have to like grab a different computer and cut those out and email them to myself and throw them into Tableau. It's just talk about an insignificant complaint, but it has made my life harder too.
Hopefully this settles down, because of what that says also about the state of COVID in the league will be.
Yeah, that too.
And look, shout out to the guys who have kept the league up and running by signing all these 10-day contracts. I'm not a big fan of saying, oh, they're getting this opportunity they wouldn't otherwise have. It's true, but you're also just using glorified temp workers to meet your more lucrative bottom line that they're not it's not even necessarily, they're not sharing in to the extent that all these players under guaranteed contracts are. And yes, someone like Lance Stevenson, very questionable, if terrible human being, still was able to earn a permanent contract with the Pacers. Yeah, there are situations like that. It looks like Wes Matthews will end up doing the same with Milwaukee, but he didn't even sign. I think they just signed him to a non-guaranteed deal at one point. Still, my whole point is just that shout out to those guys. They've kept the league running, as Chris Paul said, and that's not an overstatement.